Although it's obvious that and how every leader is a certain type of victim slash hyper victim, but they have no defense. But if someone tries to defend them or any other individual, because every individual is, you guys blamed other things, others ourselves, for what our founders themselves can be left declassified for us to have understood about how a breaching method reassigned black people's rights of eyes communications. How nature and what nature is communicating, showing us that we have the same color eyes and different color eyes at the same time. There are exceptions. We are a different we are a different individual species body made up of a whole bunch of individual bodies. And there are totally different individual species bodies, each one of them made up of a whole bunch of individual bodies. And what is generating all group differences, it is also a system that we could ignore. But then it demonstrates with negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, as it does with nature's communications with black pupils, white divides, relativity slash hyper relativity replaced. You know, that's all already, there are hyper evidential proofs of it. And the people agree about this. The people that are polling them not to hide, pretending they can't realize, and their delusions in the way of them realizing that and how so many kinds of organized crimes could be, were, and are at and next to the different, all ages of campuses and next to them. The differences of guilt, they are next to them, is manifest from off all locations. Those are hyper additional collusions that a breaching method needs to stay hidden in the future too. Since I was a kid, I love my classmates and things like that. They try to make fake exceptions by making people that aren't even my classmates. They're in my same grade, never even saw them around, and they're acting, putting fake things in campuses, trying to make a fake exception of knowing me, making like increasingly ties between those kids who are now adults in their roles with the World Trade Center attack and with Saudis, and after it, some Mendez police have roles with people named DeMoro and Scalora, with some people with the name McGee, switching names, forging names. They have different ages of their family members involved with the campuses intercities, more with Rocky Hill campuses involved with child abusers, leaders, and kids years apart, intercities and intra-cities. A DeMoro's Market, where it was then in the past next to Harvard Hospital, and where it is now. They have all kinds of wire crime acts and methods with FBI Director Robert Luskin and their roles faking and changing digital evidences and faking phone transcripts, faking people being at the police station and speaking with the police as a kid and then as an adult, increasingly making confessions tied to that while they're pretending other. In other words, they won't get onto paper since I was a kid because this is all recorded right through administrations. They've been played. They're incapable of speaking for the law. Oh, but that's our job. They're good people, still evil when they pretend that they can't realize how the breaching method exploits, how their jobs. Oh, but we're CIA, we're FBI, we're 4P36. In other words, no, you guys can't follow mandate law. Then you jump into people's conversations you don't even know. All exceptions are people recorded themselves at the same time, involved with confessing, demonstrating, recording, confirming collusions with the names involved with the World Trade Center attack and how they were motivated to it, per what I caught them doing with people at and next to the campuses I went from the youngest ages. Increasingly, there are people next to the campuses I went who have connections between themselves, and those connections are roles of predicate acts with facts. Like a Joe DeMoro has people on off Valley Crest involved with people named Harris and their roles with a Leahy family and with people with New Britain Superior Court, Brian Silver, also involved with Connecticut's District Court, Hartford Courts, involved before the World Trade Center attack with a former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and people involved with federal evidences crimes and collusion/S with uses of corners of streets and of corners of buildings with people from the other countries involved with the news with them with that. Increasingly, people from my sixth grade class involved with there was a sixth grade teacher of people. There were two other sixth grade classes, and we're all in the sixth grade, but we have the same teacher every day. There was a Mr. Bernstein. He had his kids involved with also the FBI director, Robert Luskin, and a whole bunch of other countries. And I'm in Wethersfield. These are people increasingly with Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut, involved with a whole bunch of other countries too. And like people with the name O'Brien, people I never had a class with, who are in the background with as their intelligence families. There are only three branches of government. The breaching method shows each age and nature of their family members, that they have to hide things at the same exact time as it shows that to the names of the people of the sciences, A through Z, in the industries. We're supposed to address how the industries and the markets, our value nature systems, tactical ulterior, from that identity of value progression, showing us its means to discern its body of value progression to an extent, where and how it is not our body generating why and how there are totally different species bodies, made up each of them of a whole bunch of individual identities. We are being shown an individual identity of value / value progression, generating all things and generating its further identity of relationship to itself, further positive onto itself, and its relativity with a special difference to communicate this with us. Otherwise, it forces that a special difference from here, as forced space nature transfer, not as death, as forced a special difference transfer too. Ugh. But see, they're not following mandated law. So increasingly, Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut, has rules with the family members of prosecutors and judges who are personally and professionally involved with foreign and domestic, also medical families, and their roles with interintelligence, including militaries, criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions, raw collusion /S leading up to the World Trade Center attack in it and since, and with the names at each of the campuses I went and next to them. Increasingly, there's in other words, and they have relative delusions. We have to address the delusions of the states, only allowed to be heard voices regarding black pupils, whites of eyes, and the relativity of the human fact, chipping nature, breaching method associated with that. We could observe this, but where and how we simultaneously are also capable of discerning other things, others, ourselves, are communicated for our founders than what they had declassified for themselves. And James Madison, the only one we know the name of specifically, who enabled that counter-extortion method to force everyone to pretend other reasons, and the true reasons were the real reason why and how they were timed. Collusion /S against the laws. Collusion in its sense, but it was trying to get free. But in other words, just like they would still call it collusion now. If little kids in New York City and in Hartford, let alone New York City, they try to speak about how the sciences are fake. There are so many examples of it. You guys were forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded while defending yourselves with subject treatments, name treatments, and relative to yourselves as victims just for what you hear through others. This breaching method only has three branches of government, collusion /S with it, since before modern countries were founded, and right through their founding, it was entrenched in such a way where it knew people were going to rise up against all the things that it forced. But while they were rising up, they couldn't discern how. It knew that they were going to do that, but to an extent, everyone was already an extent of collusion /S syntactically, therefore physically, against themselves and against everyone else. Otherwise, sensing for the breaching method, if anyone was not. So the differences of the network's guilt is also involved, but they won't follow mandated law. Fox Connecticut News has a whole bunch of people involved. That's in Hartford, Connecticut. They have a whole bunch of people recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed Collusion preventing me from getting WFSB to get me off fake conversations with them and with their sources, and a bunch of people conjunctive to them and to that involved with WFSB with organized crimes and proven child abusers, leaders, and kids years apart. And I recorded more then and now involved also the same ones involved at elderly homes and with the programs with the elderly, the nurses that go there. There are proofs that these are people involved with the veterans' homes too, and or next to them. The difference of their guilt, the same ones at next to parks. I never hung around with John Maiano. In 1994, they started confessions from him to me for a year, and I was involved with sequence shifts and two speech class teachers I had. They involved with people on up to state corrections offices, judicial branch offices, increasingly tied to child abusers, leaders, and kids years apart, first forest. They have roles with unmarked police forms and acting professors, not legitimately, but they pretend to be about police forms. Oh, but that's how they jump into people's conversations dishonestly. A breaching method taught them to do that. So they're confessing. There's former director of the F.B.I, Robert Luskin, his co-defendants and their family members. I recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed involved in Hartford, Connecticut, next to Fox Connecticut News, with a bunch of people involved also along roads and routes like Route 3 and conjunctions to it and to that, like the state corrections offices. The same people have collusions along conjunctions to it, like Hangdog Lane and where it runs into Two-Rod Highway, and conjunctions to those two streets as like one street connecting the Berlin Turnpike before the heart of Hartford and those spots. A bunch of probate court judges and superior court judges and judges associated with probate courts, superior courts, Connecticut's district court, also with prosecutors. And the Britain Superior Court has a bunch of people involved with the hallway, the security there, the database is there, the families associated with them as their own families. This is a breaching method using each age and nature of difference to cover up collusion /S with a hyperforeign breaching method at countries A through Z, distinctly multi-front against each age of fact-treating nature. These are people next to the elderly homes, not far from state corrections offices. These are the same people with organized crime acts and methods with the state judicial branch offices of Connecticut through administrations, which present hyper-evidential, so to speak. Also, lawyers. I'm not even a lawyer. Lawyers are also recorded collusion /S with all kinds of federal evidences crimes. And people involved with the child abusers, leaders, kids, and screening motivations. A Trantolo has recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed roles with Facebook and his roles with the networks and with various courts and people all along, involved with them with that, and things that conjunct WFSB faked conversations with me and fake ties to me when I was a kid and as an adult, and with the police and with doctors. I caught them involved with medical offenders of kids with the other ones and overt criminal enterprises and private ones in a whole bunch of different countries at the same time. See, they have to pretend they're for their parents. See, their parents are guilty and their kids are guilty at the same time. They have to pretend it's for other motivations. At the same time with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, originally and still. They recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They coach people to pretend that others make conspiracy theories. Right through wars, the countries with the wars have collusion /S with those crime methods against our own here and there. Russians and Americans have roles with Hartford Hospital, with the Leahy family that pretended I had conversations with them. They have their little kid on Facebook involved. Also, there's one person that looked just like a Celeste Wells. Never saw her on the inside of a campus in my life. Celeste Wells is increasingly involved with people involved with putting fake things into databases with a whole bunch of other countries and people all along a Wells Road, Route 175, involved with Facebook and people with the Britain Superior Court, increasingly collusion slash S with people that were planting evidences on all sides of my house and with a teacher that lived there. Increasingly, these are people involved with the Mayor Gold and his kids too, tied to people involved with murders and body dumping spots and untimely deaths years apart and time to use slash S of such, including bringing up the same house slash S above. They don't understand the extent of their confessions on a mass scale. They just know that they make them. When and how they get involved with other people's conversations on a mass scale, dishonestly, interstates. These are people interstates involved with the triages used remotely, criminally foreign influence tactically, delusions raw, specifically, for example, because relative to how it's only concentrated there, though. Their guilt is also involved with all natures of crime scenes they've been pretending to describe properly, just totally faking conversations about it. A whole bunch of people tied to a former Mayor Gold tried to put fake ties to me, acting so others could take pictures, apparently and demonstrably, with a Millwoods Park when I was a kid, and now as an adult, as people involved all along Hangdog Lane, where it runs into Two Rod Highway, in conjunction to it, like that, and that, like the Bone Turnpike before the heart of Hartford, and Route 3. And one of the conjunctions to it is the state judicial branch offices. It has something to do increasingly with their roles with World Trade Center predicate acts. WFSB also faked conversations about the World Trade Center attack with a bunch of Saudis I don't know the name of, per the dress of one, involved with a place not far from WFSB in Rocky Hill, Connecticut, who also have collusion slash S with extended family members of a Paul, a Phil Collo is further involved with their area and with the corner of the street, Elm Street and Route 3, with men and women that use the name Bobby, and with the Chris Walters and with the Ray Collo, who've been identity theft, fraud, slanders, putting fake ties, fake natures of ties to me. I only know a Chris Walters seeking me out to make confessions and demonstrations of his roles, also with people involved with child abusers in my areas with them, medical and sexual, and their roles with intelligence at Trinity College who have been planting evidences with them, and with a Joshua Stryker, and refusing to identify themselves, police forms, with FBI Director Robert Luskin, involved also with a guy who says his name is Darth Vader, one of the police officers involved. And again, they have a principal upskirt nature. They were roles forcing that. It's involved with a bunch of people with shipping, and Jeremy Grohl has a number of people involved with the intelligence agencies and with the World Trade Center, involved with the Weathersfield Community Center, also with people named Pierce. I never had a conversation with them. In other words, I was only polite to Matt Pierce. I only saw him a couple of times. That was an exception. Increasingly, former police chiefs from Weathersfield have been planting evidences on and off campuses, trying to make fake exceptions all along Route 175. They have increasingly the state judicial branch offices and corrections offices, all sides of criminal and civil cases, the lawyers, their sources, their family members, and the interbranch intelligence at the same time, putting the same sequence shifts, needing to self-value such with a whole bunch of different countries, styles, natures of logic. Oh, this political, it's that. Get them on paper, one name and sequence. You guys are leaking too. Increasingly, WFSB has people in two times I took a cooking class in high school. Both times, people involved with them intercities, involved with the people that were involved with, like a John Mayano, involved with sequence shifts. And Paul Zano sought me out to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm. He has roles with his family with the intelligence community at Trinity College and all along Route 3. A Mr. Neville, too, in conjunction with that. Again, like the state judicial branch offices, They have roles of predicate acts with facts, whether they realize it or not, whether it's just wrongdoing and or just delusions too. It's a mixture though, as their roles with people involved with home break-ins that in Weathersfield that were increasingly tied and use/estimate like wire crime roles. Weathersfield police have all kinds of federal evidence as crimes and identity theft, fraud, slanders, collusions with other police forms and their campuses. The whole careers are kept criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. Is because you guys don't follow mandated law. Get me off the faith conversations, all these people increasingly since I was a kid, and we're gonna address this. In other words, what are they doing next to the campuses?